All right, so today we're going to do a deep dive into habits. We're going to be looking in the book Atomic Habits by James Clear, and I'm really excited about this one.
Yeah, this is a good one.
It is a good one.
There's a lot of really interesting stuff in this book.
Yeah, and I think it's something that everybody struggles with, right? Like
Yeah.
we all have those habits that we're like, I wish I didn't do that, or I wish I did this. And so I think that this is going to be really helpful.
Yeah, it's very practical.
Yeah.
One of the things that struck me as I was reading this book is Clear uses himself as a case study. So he had this really horrific baseball injury when he was in high school.
Oh, yeah, I remember reading about that.
Yeah, so he had multiple facial fractures, double vision. He was in a medically induced coma. They weren't even sure he was going to fully recover.
Wow, and he went from that to writing a best-selling book on habits. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's a pretty incredible story.
How did he even start to bounce back from that?
Well, he really focused on those small wins. So tiny incremental improvements day after day. Relearning basic movements, slowly rebuilding strength. It wasn't an overnight miracle or anything like that. It was really just the power of compounding in action.
Okay, so like those stories where somebody saves a penny a day and they end up a millionaire.
Exactly.
Huh.
It's those tiny gains that just add up over time.
That makes sense. And I guess that applies to anything, right?
Pretty much, yeah.
Not just physical stuff.
Right.
So like even in our personal lives or our careers.
Think about it like, are you where you wanted to be 5 years ago?
That's a good question.
And what choices might have led you to where you are now?
Oh, man.
It could be really insignificant choices that you made. That's the power of compounding, It can work for you or against you.
Yeah, that is kind of scary, actually, when you think about it like that. So if even our smallest choices have that much of an impact, how do we harness that? Is it all about like setting these huge goals?
That's what a lot of people think, but Clear actually suggests shifting the focus from goals to systems.
Oh, interesting.
So goals are the results you want. Okay.
But systems are the processes that get you there.
Okay, I think I'm starting to see where you're going with this.
Yeah.
So give me an example.
Okay, so imagine you're trying to lose weight. The goal might be to drop 10 pounds.
Right.
But the system is your daily routine, what you eat, how much you exercise.
So it's less about that finish line and more about building the right track to run on.
Yeah, exactly.
Does Clear have any examples of how this works in real life?
Yeah. He talks about his own writing career. So instead of obsessing over like becoming a famous author, he built a system around consistently writing and publishing. He focused on the process, not the outcome. And all those things that people would consider goals. You, the audience, the book deals, the speaking engagements, those all materialized as a result.
Wow, so he just focused on writing.
Pretty much.
And all that other stuff just followed.
Yeah.
Huh? I like that. So you're putting in the work consistently, the results will eventually come.
That's the idea. But how do we turn those actions into habits that stick?
Yeah.
I mean, we all know we should exercise, we should eat healthy.
Right.
But actually doing it day after day, that's a whole different story.
Yeah, it's tough. That's where understanding the habit loop comes in.
A habit loop.
Yeah, it's basically this neurological feedback loop that drives our behavior.
Okay, so walk me through this loop.
So it starts with a cue,
Okay.
which is a trigger that tells your brain to initiate a behavior.
Like what?
Well, think about your phone buzzing. That's a cue to check for notifications.
Oh, yeah.
For our ancestors, it was things like the sight of ripe fruit or the smell of rain.
Signaling potential rewards.
Exactly.
Okay, so those cues create a craving for the reward. Like with the phone, maybe it's the anticipation of a message from a friend or like that dopamine hit of seeing something new.
Yeah, you got it.
So that craving leads to the response,
Yeah.
the actual behavior. So you pick up your phone and check the notification,
Right.
and then finally the reward, the satisfying outcome that reinforces the habit.
It makes you want to do it again.
So seeing that funny meme or getting that little social validation, and because it feels good, we're more likely to repeat that whole cycle the next time our phone buzzes.
Exactly.
Okay, I get it. So that's the habit loop. But what if you're trying to break a bad habit? Like mindlessly scrolling through social media.
Well, you can actually hack the habit loop.
Hack it.
Yeah, by making changes at each stage.
Okay, so how does that help me stop reaching for my phone every 5 seconds?
Well, you can start by making the cue less obvious.
Okay.
So maybe put your phone in a different room or turn off notifications. If you're trying to exercise in the morning, you could make the cue more obvious.
Oh.
Like lay out your workout clothes the night before.
Oh, yeah. So it's already there staring you in the face.
Exactly.
And then for the craving.
You can make it more attractive.
So if I'm trying to drink more water,
Yeah.
I could get a fancy water bottle that I actually like using.
Exactly.
So it's not just about willpower. It's about manipulating those cues and rewards.
Yeah, to make the good habits easier and the bad habits harder.
Okay, so that's how we hack the loop. But then what about the response itself? The actual habit?
Right. You want to make that as easy as possible.
Okay, how do we do that?
Well, instead of committing to an hour-long workout, maybe just start with 5 minutes.
Oh, so make it super easy.
Yeah, so easy you can't say no.
Okay, I like that.
Yeah.
And I guess making the reward satisfying is key too. Like maybe plan a healthy, delicious breakfast for after your workout.
Yeah, or visualize how good you'll feel.
Okay, so it's all about rewiring those neurological pathways to work for us, not against us.
Exactly.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. But this is where Clear gets even deeper, right?
Oh, yeah.
He says that our habits are actually a reflection of our identity.
It's a really powerful idea.
So you mean like our habits shape who we believe ourselves to be?
Yeah, think about it like this. If you constantly hit the snooze button,
Oh, guilty.
you might start to see yourself as someone who lacks discipline.
Oh man, that's me.
And then that belief makes it even harder to break the habit.
It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. So if I want to change my habits, I need to change how I see myself.
That's a big part of it, yeah.
But how do you actually do that?
Well, Clear highlights the power of language.
Okay.
So instead of saying, I'm trying to quit smoking, you say, I'm a non-smoker?
Oh, so just changing the words you use.
It's a subtle shift, but it can have a huge impact.
It's almost like you're stepping into the role of the person you want to become.
Right.
Like fake it till you make it.
Yeah, kind of.
Okay, so that's our identity.
Yeah.
But what about our environment? Does that play a role in all of this?
Oh, absolutely.
Because, I mean, if you're surrounded by junk food, it's going to be a lot harder to eat healthy,
For sure.
no matter how much you believe you're a healthy eater.
Right.
So it's not just about willpower.
No, it's not. Clear actually uses this equation. Behavior is a function of the person in their environment,
Okay.
or B equals F of PE.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. So even with the best intentions and the strongest self-belief, our surroundings can still sabotage us.
So it's like you're trying to run a race, but somebody keeps putting obstacles in your way.
Yeah, basically.
Okay, so can you give me an example of this?
Yeah, so Clear gives this great example from a hospital cafeteria.
Okay.
So they wanted to see if they could influence people's food choices without, like, lecturing them about nutrition.
Okay.
So they simply rearranged the food layout.
Okay.
They made the healthier options more prominent, and guess what?
People started choosing the healthier options.
Exactly.
Wow, so just tweaking their surroundings actually nudged them towards better choices.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
That makes me think about my own kitchen. All those tempting snacks within easy reach.
Yeah, it's all about being the architect of your own environment.
I like that.
Think about your office, your social media feeds, even the physical layout of your home.
What cues are triggering your bad habit?
Exactly.
And then how can I redesign those spaces to make good choices the easier, more appealing option? Okay, so instead of relying solely on willpower, we can set ourselves up for success by creating an environment that supports our goals.
Exactly.
That's a game changer.
It's about being mindful of those digital spaces, too. Think about, like, the impact of those social media algorithms.
Oh, yeah?
They're constantly feeding you content, shaping your perceptions, and ultimately influencing your behaviors.
It's like they're tapping into that habit loop we talked about.
Yeah.
You know, the cues and rewards,
Right.
but on a massive scale.
Exactly.
So like you see a post about some amazing new gadget, suddenly you're craving it, and next thing you know, you're clicking buy now.
It's so true. Those platforms are designed to keep you engaged, often at the expense of your well-being.
Yeah.
So it's crucial to be mindful of the online communities you join, the content you consume, the influencers you follow. Are they supporting your goals? Or are they leading you down a rabbit hole of distractions?
You know, now that you mention it, I've noticed that when I spend too much time in certain online groups, I end up feeling anxious or inadequate. Like I'm not doing enough, not achieving enough.
Yeah.
It's like their negativity becomes contagious.
That's the power of social norms at work. We're wired to conform, to mimic the behavior of those around us, whether it's our friends, our family, or those virtual tribes we belong to.
Clara talks about this, right? The idea that we're influenced by the groups we're a part of.
Yeah, he has that fascinating story about the Polgar sisters.
Oh, yeah, the chess prodigies.
Their father basically created a mini chess society within their home.
Wow.
The girls were homeschooled, surrounded by chess books, constantly playing against each other.
So chess wasn't just a hobby, it was their entire life.
It was their culture, their norm.
And all three of them became chess masters.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible.
I mean, talent aside,
Yeah,
their environment must have played a huge role in their success.
absolutely.
It highlights how powerful it can be to surround yourself with people who already embody the habits you want to cultivate.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
if your closest friends are all fitness enthusiasts, chances are you're going to be more active too.
Makes sense.
Okay, so how do we apply this in everyday life? I'm not about to turn my house into a chess academy or only hang out with marathon runners.
It doesn't have to be that extreme.
Okay, good.
Just start by paying attention to the habits of the people you spend the most time with. Are they positive influences? Do they support your goals?
That's a good point.
And if not, maybe it's time to expand your social circle.
Okay.
Find communities, online or offline, that align with your values.
So it's about being proactive in choosing your influences, surrounding yourself with people who inspire you to be your best self.
Exactly.
That's great advice. Now, there's another crucial element to habit formation that we haven't touched on yet.
What's that?
Making those habits satisfying. Remember that reward stage of the habit loop?
Oh, yeah.
We're far more likely to repeat a behavior if it feels good.
That's the cardinal rule of behavior change.
The cardinal rule.
What is immediately rewarded is repeated. What is immediately punished is avoided.
Okay, so it's about hacking that reward system to work in our favor.
Exactly.
But we can't always rely on those intrinsic rewards. Like, I know flossing is good for me,
Right.
but it's not exactly the highlight of my day.
Yeah. I hear you.
So even if the habit itself isn't inherently enjoyable, we can find ways to make it more rewarding.
Exactly.
Okay, so how does that work in practice?
Well, think about those small, immediate rewards.
Okay.
Like if you're trying to build a reading habit, maybe treat yourself to a cup of fancy tea while you read.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Or if you're trying to cut back on social media, allow yourself to watch an episode of your favorite show, but only after you've put the phone away for an hour.
I like that.
Clear actually shares the study that was done in Pakistan,
Right.
where they were trying to increase hand washing rates.
Okay.
And they found that simply providing people with more enjoyable soap.
Wait, really? Just better soap.
Yeah. It led to significant improvements in hand washing.
So just better soap made that much of a difference.
It did.
That's amazing.
It highlights how even small tweaks to the experience can significantly impact our behavior.
Wow.
They made hand washing more enjoyable. And that simple change led to lasting improvements in public health.
Okay, that's a powerful example.
Okay.
So it's not just about forcing ourselves to do things we hate. It's about finding ways to make those healthy habits more appealing, more rewarding.
Exactly.
Okay, I like that. Now, for those new habits that might seem daunting at first,
Yeah.
Clear offers this technique called the 2-minute rule.
It's a good one.
Okay, tell me more about this rule.
So the idea is to make starting a new habit so ridiculously easy that it takes less than 2 minutes. Want to start meditating? Just commit to sitting in silence for 2 minutes.
Okay.
Want to get back into running? Just put on your running shoes.
So it's like tricking your brain into taking that first step, knowing that once you've started,
Yeah.
you're more likely to keep going. It removes that initial barrier to entry,
Right.
that resistance we often feel when faced with a new challenge.
It's all about making it so easy that you can't say no.
I like that. So it's about outsmarting our own procrastination
Yeah.
by making the starting point ridiculously achievable.
Exactly.
But how do we stay motivated once we've overcome that initial hurdle?
That's where habit tracking comes in.
Habit tracking.
Yeah. It's a simple but incredibly effective tool for staying on track.
Yeah.
And reinforcing that sense of progress.
So like using a habit tracker app.
Yeah.
Or marking off days on a calendar.
Exactly.
Right.
That visual representation of your progress is incredibly motivating. Clear talks about the don't break the chain method,
So break the chain.
where you aim to build a continuous chain of X's on your calendar,
Cool.
representing each day you successfully complete the habit.
I can see how that would be powerful. It's like you're building a visual reminder of your commitment,
Right.
and each X becomes a mini victory.
And it taps into our desire for consistency. We don't want to break that chain,
Wow.
so we're more likely to stick with the habit, even on days when we don't feel like it.
Okay, that makes sense. But let's be honest. Even with the best tracking systems, there are days when motivation wanes.
For sure.
What about those times when we're tempted to hit the snooze button on our good habits.
That's where accountability comes into play.
Accountability.
Having someone to answer to can make a world of difference.
Okay.
Clear shares the story of Brian Harris,
Okay.
who used a habit contract with his wife and trainer.
A habit contract.
Yeah.
What is that?
It was basically this agreement where he had to pay them a certain amount of money if he didn't stick to his fitness goals.
Oh, wow.
It was all about creating a system of external motivation to supplement his internal drive.
And he actually stuck to it.
He did.
Wow, that's impressive. But you think that level of pressure is always necessary?
No, not necessarily.
Right.
Sometimes simply telling a friend about your goal or joining a group of like-minded individuals can provide that extra nudge of accountability.
I love the idea of having a support system.
Yeah.
People who are cheering you on and holding you accountable.
Yeah, it's like having a team of personal cheerleaders for your habit journey.
I like that.
And it's not just about external accountability. It's also about being accountable to yourself.
Right.
Tracking your progress, celebrating your wins, acknowledging your setbacks. All of that helps you stay connected to your goals.
So it's a combination of internal and external motivation, working together to keep us moving forward.
Exactly.
Okay, that makes sense.
Now, here's where things get really interesting.
Ooh, I like when you say that.
Clara introduces the concept of finding your zone of genius.
Your zone of genius.
Yeah.
What does he mean by that?
He argues that we all have inherent strengths and weaknesses, areas where we naturally excel, and areas where we might struggle.
Right.
It's about recognizing those natural inclinations and aligning our habits accordingly.
So instead of trying to be good at everything, we should focus on developing the skills and habits that play to our strengths. Okay, I like that.
He gives the example of Michael Phelps.
The Olympic swimmer.
Yeah. Phelps has a physique that's perfectly suited for swimming, with his long torso and large wingspan.
It's like he was designed for that specific sport.
He was practically born to be in the water.
But does this mean we should only do things that come easily to us?
Not necessarily. It's not about limiting yourself. It's more about recognizing that some habits might require more effort than others. It's like learning a language. If you have like a natural aptitude for languages, picking up Spanish might feel relatively effortless. But if languages don't come as easily, you might need to put in more time and effort to reach that same level of fluency.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. So it's about being realistic about our strengths and weaknesses and adjusting our expectations accordingly. So how do we actually figure out what our zone of genius is? Is there like a test we can take or something?
It's more about self-reflection and experimentation. Think about the activities that energize you, the things you lose yourself in, the tasks you find relatively easy to master. Those are often clues pointing you towards your natural inclinations.
So it's about paying attention to those moments when we're in flow. Like when we're completely absorbed in what we're doing.
Exactly.
Like when you're coding and you look up and 3 hours have gone by.
That's it. Those are the activities that feel effortless, almost like play. And when we align our habits with those natural strengths, we're more likely to stick with them and achieve mastery.
Okay, that
Yeah.
makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
But I have to admit, the idea of mastery brings up this fear I have, the fear of boredom.
Oh, yeah.
Won't it get tedious doing the same things over and over again, even if they are in our zone of genius?
Cleary actually addresses this head on.
Okay, good.
He says we need to embrace the boredom of mastery.
Embrace the boredom.
Yeah, he quotes an elite weightlifting coach
Okay.
who said, at some point it comes down to who can handle the boredom of training every day, doing the same lifts over and over and over.
So instead of dreading that monotony, we should see it as a necessary part of the process.
It's about recognizing that those seemingly mundane repetitions are actually the building blocks of excellence.
Okay.
Think of a musician practicing scales, or an athlete perfecting their form. It's not always glamorous, but it's that dedication to the fundamentals that separates the amateurs from the masters.
So boredom is almost like a badge of honor,
You could say that.
like a sign that you're putting in the work.
Yeah.
They're committed to the long game.
Exactly.
I like that. Well, this has been an incredible deep dive into the world of habits. We've covered so much ground, from the power of tiny gains to the importance of systems, the science behind the habit loop, the influence of identity and environment, and the challenge of embracing boredom. What a journey.
It's a fascinating topic, and the beauty of Clear's book is that it's packed with even more insights and strategies.
Yeah, definitely worth a read for anyone who's serious about making lasting changes. So as we wrap up, what's one key takeaway you hope our listeners walk away with?
I think the most important message is that building better habits is a process, not an event. It's about making small, consistent changes over time, not striving for some unrealistic ideal of perfection.
It's about progress, not perfection. And
Exactly.
even if we slip up, it's not about beating ourselves up. It's about getting back on track
Mhm.
and continuing to move forward.
And remember, even the smallest improvements, compounded over time, can lead to remarkable
The
results.
tiny changes, big results.
Exactly.
I love it. Well, that's all the time we have for today's deep dive into atomic habits. If you're looking for more guidance on your habit journey, definitely check out the book. It's a game changer.
It really is.
All right, thanks for joining us.
My pleasure.